Hello once again. So, welcome to day two, chapter two, if I would say. And my name is Oba, in case you didn't watch the first video, but you could go back to watch the first video. Yeah, my name is Oba, and I am on the journey of reviewing this book here on the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. I was about to say John Cena, but by John C. Maxwell. And I'm going to start chapter two. So I read chapter two, and chapter two, basically, the second law is the law of influence. And the law basically states that the true measure of leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. The idea is that leadership is influence. And that basically, I've heard John C. Maxwell say that a couple of times outside of this book. And I think what he means is that for you to be a leader, you would have to influence people, because the whole crux of leadership is in relations to people. Therefore, leadership is your ability to influence people. I have a couple of notes written down here. And I think he said leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Influence is earned. And I think when I think about that statement, influence is earned, it's just like the idea that trust is earned as well. And it's not normal, or let me not say it's not normal. It's not arbitrary that people would gather around another person or would blindly follow another person. There is some sort of show that the leader would have to put forth that would earn the trust of the people, to commit themselves to say, I'm going to follow this person. Right, so that's how I understand influence. Influence is earned, just like trust is earned. I think one of the other things that he also differentiated is the idea that leadership is different from management. How that leadership is your ability to influence people, management is ability to maintain processes, maintain structure, maintain policies, maintain the structures of an organization and keep it the way it is. And that's different from what a leader is supposed to do. So for example, you have a manager who is to ensure that certain level of production, certain level of results are being met in the organization. That manager is ensuring that all of the input produces the output. And that's different from a leader. A leader is ensuring that the people have the right guidance, they have the right guidance, they have the right motivations, they are supported. And I think the idea here is that a manager is not a leader, but the manager can be a leader, right? I think that's one of the ideas that the book puts forth. And it just helps you to understand that there are times that you have managers that you don't like, managers that you're not willing to follow. And that's totally true when I think about it. A couple of managers or team leads that we've all engaged with over time. And therefore we see that if not because we're working here, we would not take instructions from them or would rather not follow them, right? And that's a true test of the differentiation between a leader and a manager. And I found that very profound. So I think another thing that he also said is the true test of your leadership influence is leverage. And that was pretty profound today. And I think he explained it with two examples. If you can lead people without leverage, then you are of influence. So let me explain what that means. So I think what he mentioned was, if you could volunteer in a non-profit organization where you're not going to be paid, and if you take on a leadership position and you know that these people are not tied to you based on salaries, they're not tied to you based on any benefit, if you can influence people and they would follow you there, you have real influence. As opposed to being a leader in an organization or manager in an organization where your people have their livelihood hinged to the job. So they have salaries they're working for, they have benefits they're working for. They also have performance reviews that will also help them get a promotion, which help them get a better pay. They would follow you because of those reasons, even if you don't like the reasons, if they don't, even though they don't like your style of leadership, if they don't like your management style, even if they don't like your decisions, they'll follow you because they have some sort of leverage over the people. So he's saying that you have true influence if you can lead people without leverage. People can commit to follow you without any sense of gaining or losing anything by following you. And I think that's pretty true, because some people coerce people to following them or obeying them and doing the instructions based off some sort of leverage that people have, which is, I would say, somewhat toxic, right? The last set of things he spoke about, I think I would call them influence factors. So these are the factors that help you build influence with people, right? And I think he mentioned character. Says, who are you? And that's basically defining, are you a person of character, integrity? Are you a person who has a positive identity, right? Or an identity either ways that people can or that people can want to aspire towards, or be drawn towards. The other one is relationships. Do you have deep relationships with people? So if you want to be a person of influence, one of the things that needs to happen is building relationships with people, because you're definitely trying to get influence over people, influence with people. I don't want to use over, but influence with people. Therefore, you need to have relationships with the people. You need to have, in his words, deep relationships. So it's the idea of not just knowing their name and how they're feeling about the weather, but it's knowing the things that drive them, things that move them, the things that are important to them, and caring enough to want to get into their own business as well. You need to be knowledgeable. So it's basically also having knowledge. So people would follow someone that seems to be knowledgeable, especially within their sphere. So for example, I think one of the things I've heard him say as well is that influence is also contextual. Not everybody would have influence in everything, right? So you have influence over people in certain contexts that you might not have in different contexts. So it's also your knowledge enables you to gain influence over people. For example, there's certain people that you and I would gravitate towards based on different things. You might not gravitate towards me when it comes to finance. I might not be the best guy to give you finance advice, but there might be someone out there who could give you good or great finance advice, right? So that's basically how it contextualizes influence. So whoever wants to have influence must be knowledgeable about their craft, about what they're doing. Intuition. So intuition is the tricky one, but he explained it as your ability to read the room, read when morale is down, read when the energies are down, read when, should I say, be sensitive to people's feeling, emotions, their state, and all those things. And in summary, just read people. How great are you at reading people? How great are you about being intuitive about the things that are going on in people's life? Do you know when your colleague's face is sad? Or do you know when your colleague is not in a great mood? Do you know when your colleague is going through a hard time? Do you know the difference between their energy levels last week versus this week? Are you perceptive to those kind of things? So he says someone who has influence must be very intuitive. So experience. So where have you been? Basically, people are looking at what are the things you've done in the past, not really things you've done, but where have you been? Do you have a great journey that can inspire people? And the other one is past successes. Show us what you've done in the past. Do you have a track record of successes? Do you have a track record of failures? And I think track record is also important for people to put their trust and follow. Therefore, anybody who would have influence over people should be able to, provide past successes. And it feels like you're applying to be a leader, but the idea is that if I see that you've succeeded over time, or if I've seen that you failed and you've successfully utilized failure for good, I can begin to develop a deep sense of trust, and I could choose to follow you, right? Also, building abilities, more or less also developing your competencies, developing the things that you can do, developing yourself to be able to do things that are good, right? So these are basically, I'll say, the 7 influence factors in my own words that he mentioned: character, relationships, knowledge, intuition, experience, past successes, and your ability. So So in conclusion, I think when I think about the law of influence, it makes me think about what do I need to do now, the very next steps for me. And I'm thinking the very next step for anybody who reads the law of influence is to begin to first of all audit ourselves to say how much influence do we have with the people that we might be leading, or how much influence do we have with people around us, and also define the major steps that we need to take to begin to build influence with people. So if it's relationship, if it's being present to be able to see how your people are doing, if it is all around beginning to build the right knowledge that to enable them trust you. And then, like I said, I feel like leadership is influence, and influence is earned just like trust. So I would say that I would build influence by creating space for the people that I'm leading to trust me enough to follow me, right? So yeah, I think wonderful lessons to meditate on or think on from the law of influence. All right, thank you everyone. See you in the next chapter, which is chapter 3. All right, bye.